So good evening, everybody. We're super excited to have you all here with us this evening. And we're really excited to be talking about some of the amazing things that are happening in different schools around how they're using Purple Mash from a creativity point of view. And for me, that's really exciting. I think that we need to be encouraging children to be creative. And the way we look at Purple Mash in terms of developing adaptability, developing a range of different skills, developing creativity, it's really all possible. And so it's exciting so just the other day, we ran a competition in terms of developing coding games. And there were two amazing winners. During the chat tonight, what we'll do is we'll pop the links to those games into the chat. And you can actually grab those links and then go and explore these amazing games that these two little children created. And we'll tell you more about that as we go along. So if we could start with Mashudu. Mashudu is at Brescia, and she's going to share with you a bit about herself and then what she really enjoys about Purple Mash. Just as a matter of interest, if you want to make her screen big, if you go onto the People tab up at the top next to the chat box, and you click on the person who's speaking, if you click on the little down arrow under their name, you'll see that there's a little drawing pin. If you click on that drawing pin, it pins that person, so then that picture becomes big. So over to you, Mashudu. We look forward to hearing what you're going to share.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. As you just said, I'm an IT teacher at Brescia House School. I teach primary school IT from grade 1 to 6. And I started this year, so I'm very much new into this information technology journey, but I've been thoroughly enjoying it. I was first introduced to Purple Mash about a while ago, actually, back in 2016 when I was at St. Mary's DSG Pretoria. I was working there as an intern, and then I effectively started using Purple Mash as a class teacher in the classroom about 3 years ago when I joined Brescia House School, and I've thoroughly enjoyed using the Purple Mash tools. I really love the fact that the various learning areas in there, and they cater for children of all age groups, from children that actually cannot read to children that are quite advanced in reading. And so what I've found, we've benefited so much from the Purple Mash as a grade 4 team back in the day. And now as an IT teacher, I'm exploring even more tools that actually encourage creativity in the classroom. And, some of those activities include, the coding activities. We've been really busy with that. Even this week, we still, it's the last week of term, and we are still finishing strong. And so those coding activities, especially the ones that that allow the students to freely code, to actually design the specific scene, to add in more characters into their scenes, and to also code whatever it is that they like. I found that many of our learners have actually enjoyed those activities because they actually get to think out of the box, and it actually creates individualized learning where they actually create their own individual work. And I've also found that many of the Purple Mash activities, they actually also encourage the students to express themselves creatively, not just in terms of the written skills or the visual skills, but also verbally, because as we do our coding, especially now during this lockdown, when I share my screen, I'll challenge the girls. I'll say, okay, now somebody to please explain to the class what we need to do here. And so they get to not only interact with the coding activities, as an activity, as an academic activity, but also they get to verbally express themselves in a creative way on how to solve those problems. And sometimes you find that it's those kids that, even those quiet kids that normally do not speak, they engage even more when we do such activities. We also they also engage in some group work as well. So instead of just working individually to complete some of those activities, I get them to work in pairs, and they also then get to collaborate and work creatively together to solve some of those challenges. And so I've really found that the coding challenges, especially where they get to freely code, those are really amazing, and they actually create a lot of they encourage a lot of creative and a lot of critical thinking amongst the students. And there are many other also like design activities that are on Purple Mesh, for the younger grades, especially the kids that are still struggling to read, a simple paint activity. I remember we did, beginning of the year, we did with the grade ones, an activity, a simple paint activity where they had to design a robot. But for them, it was really exciting because I said to them, you need to think about your dream robot, that robot that you would like to own someday, what you want this robot to be able to do. Do you want this robot to do your shopping? Do you want this robot to be waterproof? So getting them to think out of the box about dream robot, because these kids, this is the type of generation that will do such things someday for a living. These are some of the kids that will get to go shopping for robots. So I thought, no, this is a lovely activity it's a simple paint activity, but it got them to think about material, because they do. That Purple Mesh robot activity has some materials in there. They can actually see that, oh, this is actually a metal. This looks like concrete, and they got to design, their robots, and it was just really interesting to watch. So a simple task it could be extended, it could be, just getting them to think and getting them to be excited about it. And I found that it really, really did encourage some creativity, and I was really excited to see their work, and I just really absolutely love the Purple Mesh. As a whole, we've benefited as a school from it, and I'm sure you will hear some more from my colleague Tracy Heath about how much we've really enjoyed Purple Mesh. Thank you so much.
So thanks, Mashudu. So if I think of what you're saying in terms of the task, in terms of creating the space for creative and critical thinking, what are perhaps some of the things the children might have said to you in terms of it? Did you get any interesting feedback from the children when they were designing? So you alluded to it in terms of, this is wood or maybe concrete. Were there any fun kind of comments you got back from the children?
Oh, they are really, really interesting. Some of them talked about, especially, it was at the beginning of this pandemic and everything. They talked about how they want this robot to actually go do shopping for them so that they don't have to worry about going out there, and being exposed to the virus. There were such interesting things, and some of them even spoke about that it should be able to deliver some food to them, like, to their bedroom. Such funny, interesting, really cute things. And some of them talked about it being a colorful, it has to be a colorful one that should be inviting to people. It shouldn't scare people away. Such things. They thought about that it should be like a sociable robot, not that, not a still concrete robot that is boring, that will just bore people or scare children away. So, some of those were some of the comments I received as feedback from our girls.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really, really interesting. If I could ask if we could go to Laurie now. Laurie, are you around? I don't see you.
I am here, yes.
Oh, cool. Oh, there, now we can see you.
Yeah.
So, Laurie, if you could introduce yourself, talk a bit about your school and how you then see Purple Mesh and how you use it as a creative tool with your students.
Okay, so can I start by saying I have not once managed to keep this under 5 minutes, so please stop me when the time is when my time is up, because otherwise I'll just go on and on. So I'm Laurie. I'm from Hatfield Christian School in Pretoria, And we started with Purple Mash. Well, it was too simple. We started with the apps years back. And now I've been using Purple Mash for a few years as well. So I love it. So if I can just start by saying we were tasked to speak about how Purple Mash tools can encourage creative thinking. Just to say where I'm coming from, I'm thinking of creative thinking in terms of that creative thinking is thinking about anything in a new way. So it would include thinking artistically and inventively innovative from the beginning, or it would include critical thinking, brainstorming, analyzing, organizing, all those kind of skills.
Yes.
So, and then the other thing I just want to say is I've seen when I bring something like this to our staff and say, here's something I'd like you to use, the first sort of response is overwhelm. No, we've got enough on our plates. We don't need any more. And when you look at, I think Trevor Farley said last week, it's overwhelming to look at. And I would really just like to encourage teachers. I know you've got a huge amount on your plates at the moment, but see Purple Mash as a complementary tool, not a supplementary tool. It's not something extra that you have to do. It is rather, you take your existing prep, and especially now during lockdown where you're looking for ways to present things digitally, it's done for you in Purple Mash. So take what you've got. You've already thought out how you want your kids to think, what you want them to think about, and then look in Purple Mash for a tool that lends itself to doing what you want to do. You know, a motivated and relaxed child is a good thinking child, and that's what Purple Mash does for you. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just share my screen.
Yes.
So that I can, especially for people who aren't familiar with Purple Mash, to just show you which apps I'm talking about. So if I can just present here. So if I can just share here, I just want to start with this little simple city. This is in knowledge and understanding. This looks like at first value, it's just a little play tool. But this has got so much potential for little kids. In Simple City, they can build all sorts of little scenarios. There's building a house and going to the park and the petrol station and the vet and so on. And, you know, for little kids who battle to process, building a scene like this and then talking about it as they go helps them to put their thoughts into words and lay their thoughts out. It also is really useful as a tool for teaching, say, second language, if you want to do vocab in Zulu or Afrikaans or whatever. Also for teachers wanting to do orals, their kids can set up a little scene and then present the oral around what they've done in Simple City. So that's just a kind of a little standalone. Then I'm going to use this example. In the third term, we do Literacy Week, which is all sorts of storytelling, written word. The little ones do picture books right up to the grade 5s and 6s who do newspapers and magazines. And I can take that prep, everything that we did, and use Purple Mash tools for that. So from the preparation stage, obviously if they're writing stories or if they are going to do a newspaper or a magazine, everything is going to need preparation. So this to connect shows you like a mind map thing like this. You can see how Purple Mash helps them. It always prompts their thoughts. What do you need? What you need characters, and you need this, and you need this. It guides them in their thinking. Likewise, to write, both of these, what's nice now during lockdown is that these are collaborative as well. So if you were doing group work with your children, you still can. And even the simple act of working doing collaborative work, that for them is something you need to think about. How is this working? Why? How can we do this together? To write is lovely. It's like a Google Doc kind of. So you can share a document with like groups of 6 or with your whole class. And then, you know how you go in a class where you start a story and then you give the first line and then every child gives another line or another paragraph to the story. They can do that into Write as well. There are also, in the templates, there's storyboards like this, easy little storyboards to the more complex storyboards where they can plan their stories in groups or on their own. They can draw their own pictures or they can use clip art and draw over it. They can bring in internet pictures and so on. So that's for the planning stage of stories. Then I love to create a story. Our little ones use a simple storybook. They just make a little picture book. And then right up to our grade 5s do use the adventure story. Now this one is a branching story, and you'll be amazed how much thinking goes into this thing. For the kids to wrap their heads around this, you give a normal story, so the children have a choice. Either they must write a completely unique story of their own, or you take a story, give them a bit of safety, those children who need it, and take a story that they know. And then at some point in the story, there's a choice to be made. So this book is interactive, and the reader would click on a choice. So does Little Red Riding Hood stick on the path like her mom said, or does she wander off into the woods? And then they have to write a different ending for depending on what the reader clicks on. So the English teacher can use this as their assessment for story writing. And the IT teacher can use it for, there's a little bit of logic and organizing with the kids, and why am I clicking here? How do I get it to go to the right page to land up on the next right story, and so on. That one really had my kids' heads in a knot for a bit. Very nice. Okay, then these templates, I'm just showing you into Publish and to Publish Plus. There are loads of templates. If you need anything that you just click it into the search bar there and you will find something. So as I said, our grade 5s did newspapers and 6s magazines. There are templates here to use. And one thing I'd just like to insert, the to blog was really nice. Our 6s for their magazines, they do like a fantasy magazine in another world. It's a fantasy thing. So then to blog, I got them to blog as their character. And it's amazing how children will, some of them will write more easily if they're in a character. They express themselves better. There's the low-hanging fruit for the teacher to give immediate feedback. Kids love immediate feedback. You can answer as a character yourself. You can correct their work and give it back to them before you publish it. So that is really nice. Then our grade 3s did comics. So there are comic templates as well. There's a comic template, or you can do a PDF and send them this. What's lovely is there's always pictures to pull in, and these are awesome. At the side of most of the writing projects, there's a prompt for the kids. What do they need to think about? Like, for instance, if you look at this one, our grade 1s did acrostic poems. So it says, if you hover over this, it says, start by thinking about this. And it gives them ideas. I need descriptive words. What should I think about? What can I write? It really channels their thinking. And you know those kids that just can't get started? It really just helps them to, and especially now that you're not in the class with them necessarily. This up here, the teacher's tab, if you click on that, then you can customize this. So if you want your acrostic poem to be something else, or that they fill in their own, you can do that as well. Yeah, so those are the templates. The other thing we do in role play and characterizing, these mash cams are awesome. So for instance, with the comic thing, our grade 3s do a space theme. And this year would be so relevant, what with the shuttle launching this year and so on. And for one thing, it's fun for them they take a picture with the webcam and have themselves in there. And then there's a speech bubble to complete their comic. There they could have done research, they could be writing what they think. I mean, it just gets them thinking like, how are those guys living up there? How long are they living up there for? What are they eating? How do they eat? All these things. It just prompts so much thought about things that they have not done before or thought of before. Karen, can I keep going or must I stop?
Yep. Give yourself another 2 minutes is good.
Okay, so to animate is amazing. They can, again, it's a storytelling thing. It's so current and relevant, animation. This really gets kids thinking just even about the physics of movement. You can start with simple little things like this, for instance, where there's a seed that grows. But in the beginning, they don't get that it has to be the same picture in the same place all the time, that it's the same thing moving. One little girl did a stick man on a bicycle, and I actually saw her climbing off her chair and moving her legs to see where do I go next. And they realized the patience involved, that if they cut corners, their pictures are too jerky and that sort of thing. It really kind of gives them, I think, an insight into all the animated videos or movies that they watch and just how much went into all of that. Such an artistic, lovely tool. Another one for role play and storytelling is the coding and game design. So Mashudu spoke about the coding. You're basically doing a stage presentation. You can have your characters on the stage and have them doing whatever needs to, your story is. I love the game To Do It Yourself. These little games are quite simple for smaller kids. And then to DIY 3D maze, the kids love. Here the challenge is getting children to see that games, it's not just about the game. They all want to dive in and make a game and play it for an end in itself. But they don't realize that there's a story, and actually the game is putting you into the story as the character. So getting them to actually close that circle, it took, you could just see it wrecking their brains. I had to send them back a few times on that one. And then, just to wrap up the storytelling thing, you can compose music to go with your movies or your storybooks. This is amazing for teaching fractions. If you have a look at this, there's like a Purple Mash has a Twinkle Little Star melody, and then the kids can put in their own arrangement. They've got to learn about counting and beats and, as I say, fractions, which are heavier. You can tell them to look at things like what sounds are in your storybook, what's a scary beat, or what's a quick, fast-paced, light tone, or whatever. Lovely for music teachers. And I mean, I feel sorry for music and art teachers at the moment because it's so practical, but this, I really think, offers a beautiful creative thing. Likewise with To Paint a picture offers art teachers, and don't even get me started on To Design and Make. That's maths and shapes, and it's awesome. But anyway, back to Paint. All of these come with To Paint. So I know if you can't get into your classroom, it's not the same as having your paintbrushes and your tactile. But as art teachers, so you can design the covers of your storybooks, you can design adverts and posters and movie trailers to go into these things. These are amazing. You can layer these items. So you can teach your kids about water paint, about color composition, all your art theory you can still give them.
Yep.
And teachers like for IT gives them the concept of layering. So it's a start to things like Photoshop and video editors, where they learn that things can be in layers. Because you can start off, say now, painting a background in poster paint, and then you choose a new layer and you can spark some stars onto the layer, for instance, and then in a new layer you can do mosaic or whatever. and so create a poster or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty much me rushing through that.
That's amazing, Laurie. Thank you so much for sharing and showing just how the tools are just so very versatile in so many different ways. So how you've used it across your school within that space. Can I ask you just to stop sharing your screen? I see you still.
Sorry. I beg your pardon. There we go.
So Trevor, if I could ask you to share next, please, that would be really cool.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm from Cornwall Hill College, and I teach the children computer literacy as well as a bit of coding. So what I've really enjoyed about Purple Mash is the creativity that you can get the children to get involved in when it comes to coding. And they start off very simply and easily with the part called To Go, and it's got 8 little challenges, and it gets the children to start thinking logically, critically, problem solving. I love it. I always tell them struggle and smile while you struggle, because as we said earlier on, a child that's calm is a child who can think. If they're stressed, they cannot think. So I have a little saying that says, struggle and then they all repeat after me, smile. So we get them to just relax and enjoy themselves while they are busy doing their coding. If I may just present and just show you some of the coding things that we have dealt with. So I start with the grade 1s and we go through to the to code, as I said earlier on. So the to code, okay, let me just go off into my first one. Okay, this I do with the grade 4s. This is the one that I do where we create a clock, and it comes from the section of where they create shapes. So these 2 or these 3 little lines representing the second hand, the minute hand, and the hour hand, they are shapes, which is basically a 2-dimensional shape, which has got 2 sides, and then you can make them different lengths. So the red one is 4, and the blue one is 3, and so on. And then there's just a bit of the coding. But what's really nice about this is the kids get to draw their own face. So what I really like about this is that you get the person who's left brain, who wants to do the coding, who wants to be able to solve the problem, and they're logical and they're able to follow that through. I see the person who is artistic by nature and creative by nature, they can sometimes struggle. But the moment you open up this aspect of, hey, you can draw your own, then they really enjoy that. And they just pulls them right in. And of course, once they've drawn it, then obviously they want to see how it works. So it's just lovely to see how the kids can get that going. We then took this program and we went a little bit further, and we then said, okay, instead of drawing, let's go on the internet and let's go and look for a face. And so they will all have a look at different faces, and then we move into a little bit on the artistic side of things, and then we're in a Google environment. So I train the children to use all the Google Suite programs. And so one of the programs we will be using then is Google Drawing, and then they'll put this picture into Google Drawing, and then how do they go and manipulate the picture? For example, this picture had an hour hand or a minute hand going down here to the 4. And you say to them, right, so how do you get rid of that minute hand so that it's not in your picture? And so we start playing around with that creative side with them. Then one of the other programs is just a castle scene. And then at the end of each of the sections where they teach you how to use the different codes, they then say, right, go now code your own. So this one is about the castle scene. So if I play that one, you'll see it's got the king and the queen. The queen is too far. The dragon comes along, steals the queen, and then the king goes off and gets rid of the dragon. And so it's got a repeat command right at the end, which says restart. And so this one can then just replay and replay. Another one where they go and use the vehicles. How do they get the lorries and everything going? So if I show you in the design view, you just pull in the graphics. And that's another thing I really love about Purple Mash, is that even though some of the coding can be quite advanced, the children do not have to wait till they've learned about how to manipulate graphics and that sort of things. The graphics is provided by Purple Mash. So they just go in, they use this simple sort of coding, and then they get to go and see some other, they get to see what's happening in a very colorful way. So you then go and exit the design view, and you can then go and play it. So the cars bump each other, pass.
Oh my, I wish the slow vehicles would drive on the left-hand side of the highway.
Okay, so that's just some fun. And then as you heard the voice there, the children can now, instead of just using sounds that are provided by Purple Mash, they can go and create their own sound. This one here with the children with the to-go, they go in and now they get these 8 little from the logic is if they click on this little rewind button, it gives them the opportunity to find this little circle in the bottom here. And as you click on that little circle, instead of having Red Riding Hood, you can choose from one of these characters, or you can make your own. And that's what I love about this, is the creative side then comes through. So they could choose from some of these icons, or they can go to paint. And it's a very basic paint option, but it has all the tools that you need. So if I want to go and draw my own car, I just go and start my own little car. You click on the palette over here, you can choose your different colors and go and draw some wheels. And you then say to the child, okay, this is the top view of the car. And so they get to play around with this. So this really engages those children who are artistic by nature. And then when they finish, they just say, okay, and now they have their own. Now when they've got their own, they want to see their own one working. So now they go and they learn, how do they go and get this information to work, and how do they go along. And then I love to just click on the different colors while we're going along. So we get rainbow colors, and the children, they just love doing that as they go through that. So yeah, really, really do enjoy Purple Mash with the combination of being able to do the logic of the coding, and also pulling in those children who are artistic by nature, and there's a whole range of easy to draw and to implement the creativity side. Obviously, the creating your own program, that also brings in the creativity for your logical thinking children. So yeah, tops, well done, Purple Mash. Love using your coding section.
So, Trevor, in terms of, if we look at what you've described and the examples that you've shown, you've really shown how you can get children to think differently. What do you think has stood out for you in terms of how the children have reacted to that kind of thinking?
The children have really enjoyed it. For all of us who have been involved in lockdown and teaching from home, and how do you make your own little videos, they talk about making small little videos and cutting it up into smaller pieces. And this is what Purple Mash does. When you go out and you get into the actual program of working with the logo, and you go into one of the challenges, and as you get in, it then takes you through that specific one and says, right, there are 4 or 5 different sections. So, okay, let's make the snail move. And when you click on that, it gives you a little video. And the children just love it. So I say to them, right, now you listen to the video. So they play the little video, and when they've got an idea of what to do, they said, okay. So then they go back, and then they start saying, okay, so when I do this, now what do I have to do? And they work at their own speed, at their own pace. And then obviously you're walking around the class and you're helping them with their critical thinking, with their logic, with the sequencing, with the creativity, some of the problems that they're adjusting. But they really do enjoy it. And I will have the kids in my class for an hour. and those children are gone. When I say to them, right, ladies and gentlemen, time together has come to an end, please start logging off. Oh, the moans and the groans. My goodness me. You think, it was the end of the world. No, they really do enjoy it. And very seldom do you get a child who does not engage. You might find one or two of them who are battling with the logical sequencing and to get to grips with it. But, you walk alongside them for a little while and you help them. And the moment you help them and they get it right, they've got no qualms in shouting out to the whole class, I got it right, I got it right. Meantime, well back in the ranch, you help them do it all, But yeah, it just gives them a good sense of satisfaction and that they're able to achieve something. And then you back off a little bit and you let them struggle and go through that perseverance and hard work and all those hidden curriculum characteristic building activities. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. That was really fun. So now we're looking at Tracy. Tracy, are you around? We would love to hear how you see Purple Mash as being a creative tool for your students. So please share.
Thank you. I think Laurie's just about covered everything I was going to say. So
you're going to reinforce
my thunder.
That sounds good.
I am an innovation mentor. It's my new role at Brescia this year. And before that, I was an IT teacher. And right now I teach grade R's, which is really interesting online because we've chosen to do IT lessons online. I think one of the life-saving parts of it is because it is online, it doesn't matter what device our kids are using. And so for me, that's been really important. It's really hard to teach when the children are all on different devices. And some are on Macs, some are on iPads, some are on tablets. And so it's been really useful having Purple Mash where when they go online, they've got the same screen. You don't have grade R's going, I can't find it, because actually they can. And it's really simple to use. So that for me has been the first thing. It's a lifesaver from that point of view. I'm a really, one of the things that I find really interesting about using Purple Mash is all the variety of tools. I don't believe one size fits all, and I'm really trying to get our teachers to move to a point where when children have to do a report of some sort, the report has to be a report that the kids enjoy using. So not everybody wants to make a newspaper and not everybody likes talking. And so I think the variety of tools allows for that creative thinking to come through, where you say to them, okay, I want you to do a report or a story or whatever the activity is. You go and choose a tool that you are comfortable with. And because the tools are so simple, the children can actually go, whether they've used them or not, as Trevor was saying, they can go and click on that little video and they can go and see, well, how do I use this? And, as they get older, they experiment a bit more. We teach only girls who are very loath to experiment with anything when they are younger. Girls just don't click on buttons because they've been told that the whole world will erupt, and they're very scared of making a mistake. So the tools are really useful. Digital storytelling for me is really, I love to create a story. For me, from grade R, they can just draw pictures. In grade 1, when they just start writing stories, it's easy for them to add text and pictures and next pages. And before you know it, they're sharing a story with others. We also encourage our older girls to make storybooks for the younger girls, especially in our additional languages, because that's quite an easy way to share. And there's not a lot of books for the younger children in, for example, Zulu. So our isiZulu teacher is actually using that as a tool to create books for the younger readers. I really like the fact that with the more advanced tools, the children can actually go and download pictures from the internet. They can take photographs of work they've done and then use that for their reporting. So, for example, a grade 6 class could do a science experiment. They can photograph what they've done and then they can turn that into a book, or they can turn it into a newspaper or a comic or whatever. And I think that's what really essentially is what makes this so great, is that they can actually use a whole variety of tools. It's in one place. It's easy to share. The saving isn't an issue. It's easy for the teacher to find the work afterwards, and the creativity comes through. We were chatting yesterday about how for some children it's really hard to put their thoughts down. And I think Laurie showed quite a few good ideas there where you can go and storyboard your story before you actually get to making the story. You can go and do a mind map or a flow chart or whatever suits you. And that also helps with getting your thoughts down, because when we get into the creative process, some of them just really battle to crystallize their thoughts. And so it's quite nice for them to have a place where they can put down their thoughts, and also then they can save that. And so the teacher can then see their thought processes and help them as they go through their work. I think creativity is something that we really have to encourage in our kids, because too often now they go onto the internet, they see something ready-made and they just try and copy it. There's very little creative thought that comes through. And so we've got to encourage that, and we've got to encourage them to think outside of the box. I love to design and make. For me, I'm quite hands-on. I've always liked making things. Our grade sixes do dried fruit as part of their science processing of food. And I then pointed out to our teacher that there was this way that they could make their boxes. And our grade sixes simply adore that program, because it allows them not just to make a square box. They can actually change the shape of the box. They can make it colorful. They can make their own logos. So they've used that quite a lot. And what's really nice is they can download it, they can print it, and then they can build their box. Likewise, the whole idea of, well, I could design something and 3D print it. We're moving that way. Our kids are all going to want to make things. So I think that it's just the vast array of tools. And when I have to choose one, I would still say that it's to create a story, because of the fact that you can draw and you can write and you can use other pictures and captions and all kinds of things. So it's really all encompassing for me. And then, of course, with the little kids, all the painting tools. Our art teacher is about to start using all the painting tools to show the different ways of that artists use. So you can get an impressionist painting, and then you can get pointillism and those sort of things. So she's really excited to look at that going into the third term. I've just pointed it out to her. But really, I think Purple Mash, you know, I started when you were too simple, and it was simple. And like all teachers in IT, someone upstairs comes and says, we've got this thing for you to use, and you go, oh, not another thing. But it has been really simple, and I just love all the new tools. I've been looking through them even more, and now that I teach grade R, I don't get to use the more fancy tools, but I'm certainly going to endeavour to get our teachers in the upper grades to use the other tools. When they come and ask for an idea, I'm going to have an answer for them. So well done, and thank you very much for all your hard work. It's really appreciated.
Oh, no, thank you, Tracy, for that amazing sharing. And I think what you really pointed out was how you're actually getting the other teachers to use the tools within their subject. So, for example, the packaging for your grade sixes. Are there other examples like that where teachers have pulled in other subjects that you perhaps are using that you've wanted to do?
So our grade fours actually made brochures. They did some designing in Minecraft, and then they produced brochures of what they had designed. So there is, you know, that app smashing where they did one thing in one place and then brought it in. There's quite a lot of newspapers being done. And at the moment, I see our grade 4 teachers are actually using the stories, the online stories, which they're actually setting as tasks for their kids to do. In the foundation phase this week, I saw in grade 1 they were doing postcards, which is quite novel for the kids, because a postcard is such an old-fashioned idea that, you know, everything's done on WhatsApp now, and they were writing about their holidays, which obviously are imaginary at this stage, you know, for everyone. But it was quite fun reading what they'd written about in their stories. So I think the teachers are slowly catching on. Sometimes you just need an idea, and then you can go and find the tool to you know, process that. And sometimes that's what we just need to do. We need to share. You know, in the old days, teachers didn't share any ideas because they didn't want to upping them. But I think nowadays it should be about sharing, you know, and posting what works and what doesn't work. But I can't say that I found anything that doesn't work in Purple Mash.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, I do. I love the tools and the way they work and engage. What I'd like to ask any of you, so do you know that when you make to animate, that you can download it as a GIF? And have any of you done that? And have you had any reactions? Have anybody tried to put it on, like shared it on a WhatsApp or something like that? So have you had any reaction where the children have shared it further? No.
Not that I know of, but guess what? I'm going to challenge some people to do it.
So there are so many different ways. And the other thing that Purple Mash also does is where you can upload other types of documents in. And so some of you mentioned the to blog, and how to blog is really creative. There are things where the children could actually do videos, and you can upload the videos into to blog that they could share. So just like you spoke about the photos, there's spaces like that as well. So if I could ask you as we end off, could you perhaps all give a sort of a 2-minute bit about how you really think this tool is beneficial both for face-to-face teaching and during remote learning? So perhaps if we go, since Tracy, you still unmuted, would you like to start? So what are your thoughts in terms of how it works both, how it benefits both in face-to-face and with remote learning?
So obviously as teachers, face-to-face for us is always the first prize. When you see the children, you see their reactions. I can remember a little girl running down my classroom the one day. We were working in Purple Mash, and she's a battler. She really battles. But as soon as I told her what to do, she ran down the classroom going, I can do it, I can do it. And she hadn't even tried it yet. So I think, you know, in terms of that, the fact that it's easy for them to understand, the images are graphic, I really think that that's amazing in the classroom, and there is so much you can do. And online, as I said, with my grade Rs, these are kids who haven't used a computer in a computer classroom. So to have their first lesson online and all managed to achieve, I think is just phenomenal. I'm very excited about what they've done, and I've already got them, and they've only been doing this for 3 months. I've got them saving their work. I've got them interacting with me and with one another. And a lot of them just carry on working when the lesson is over. So I think that's really phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. That's fantastic. Laurie, do you want to share?
Yeah, so as for in the classroom, it's just such an easy and attractive tool. We also, I sometimes when I need to do something else, then I'll have them saying, aren't we doing Purple Mash today? But what's so nice is because there are the videos, like Trevor said with the to code, everything is self-explanatory. If a child says, I can't do X or Y, you can say to them, watch the video and help yourself. So as a teacher, you really can just be there as a facilitator, especially in something like to code that needs some guidance perhaps on logic and that sort of thing. I love Tracy's idea of saying to the kids, giving them the option to say, okay, if this is what you need to do, a report or whatever, you go and choose the tool. I think that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to try that one out. And then as for online, I mean, it speaks for itself. And frankly, I don't know what we would have done without Purple Mash now during lockdown, because it was there, it was ready. Fortunately for us, our children already knew the platform and they knew how to log in. So that was really helpful. But, it's just made assigning work and getting it back and giving self-marking little quizzes and getting them back, the whole interactive process, the whole thing that you're not in the classroom, but Purple Mash will explain for you. And the fact that it's just so attractive and fun and colourful and stuff like that. A lot of what is lost from our amazing presence in the classroom is now, Purple Mash still does that for us. So, it's a win-win. It's an awesome tool.
Thank you.
Oh, Purple Mash.
Mashudu, would you like to share?
Yes, I think I support what Tracy said there about those interactions that you get in the classroom, those bingo moments when something exciting happens, and it's such a good tool that they could actually even work together. They could work in the playground. There's Wi-Fi connection, our playgrounds, in the library. So it was something that they could even use in a school environment from various locations, where they could actually be in their comfortable sitting or thinking space, and actually work on. And online, as Laurie just said, it has been phenomenal, a lifesaver indeed. It has been my go-to app in those days that I remember yesterday. I got a new device and my camera was not working and my microphone was not working. Then I ran to Purple Mash and it was a lifesaver, and I could set a task quickly, effectively in 5 minutes, and it saved the day. So that is how wonderful it has also been, as an online platform, especially during this online learning period. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And Trevor, would you like to share from that point of view?
Yes, I think, as we went into lockdown, a lot of people were saying, how do we now carry on teaching with different subjects and so forth? But because our staff had all been exposed to Purple Mash, it just took a little bit of diving in, a little bit of guidance, and they ran with it. And it's been amazing how much Purple Mash has been used. I used it a little bit as well in terms of the coding. I was also using some other coding programs, but the Purple Mash one really worked nicely in terms of like I said, those little videos, and was sort of like helped the child along. One thing that I have really enjoyed with the face-to-face and being in the classroom, because Purple Mash has got so much, and unlike my colleague whose girls don't like to go and experiment, I often find that when we're doing other work and we've got 10, 15 minutes left, I will say to those who are finished, okay, if you're finished, you can go and you can explore Purple Mash. And oh my goodness, I walk around and I watch and I see what they're involved in. I have to ask them, what did you press on? Where did you go? How did you get to that? There is just so much. But what I love about it is that it gives the child that confidence to be able to go and press a button and to go down a tunnel and go and find out something and then put up their hand and say, I don't understand this. And I'll look at it and I said, well, have you looked at the help? Have you looked at this? Let's look at it together. Or I'll see a kid turn around and look at his friend and he will say to his friend, hey, how did you get there? And when you look again, you've got peer teaching happening, so you as a teacher, you're just facilitating, making sure they, behaving and, everything is in order. But very often I'll turn to a child and say, okay, well, you go and sit with so-and-so and just help so-and-so. This was before the COVID time. Now you tell them point from a distance and explain what needs to be explained. But yeah, it's a real, as somebody said now, a win-win both for home and for school environment. And yeah, I've used a lot of different programs over my years. Purple Mash is definitely a one-stop shop all place to go to.
Yeah. So thank you to the four of you. I mean, if I think about creativity and what I've seen over the years in terms of watching videos and children watching them and not following through, I think their Purple Mash has really encouraged the creativity by having the videos, and the children then watch them and actually realize, okay, I've got to action it. And that's a skill in itself. And all the little tips where they've actually got to read. We're building their reading ability at the same time without the children realizing it. And then for the weaker child, you've got the speaker. And so there's so many different tools within that to actually help a variety of abilities of children as well. And so I think that what you've shared tonight is just incredible in terms of how we can stimulate creativity and how technology can be used to do that, and how Purple Mash ticks so very many of those kinds of boxes. So we do say thank you so much for your time, but really thank you for what you've shared tonight. Thank you for your input, and thank you for what you're doing in your classrooms. To everybody who's watching, go and enjoy and play. And we hope that we will soon see lots more fantastic examples coming from a range of schools.